Extraction 2. So, Extraction 2 is a sequel to Extraction, an action film that I really like. I've watched that film 3 times, and there are things that I really love, and there are also plenty of things regarding to the narrative that I really did not like. But let's just get on to the positive side for a little bit. Now, when you are watching an extraction film, you are in on the action. And this film delivers on that purpose. The action here are mind-blowing. There are a lot more action scenes in this film than in the first film, but the movie is basically broken up into 3 chapters. One chapter with one long take of action scene. And I really like that approach. So, when you're watching an action scene, a first action scene that happens in a prison, you know that this is technically chapter 1. And then the second big action sequences happen, and you know that is the mark of the starting point of the second chapter, and so on until the 3rd chapter. And yes, there are 3 mega action set pieces here that I really like. Particularly the first action scene that happens on the prison. That whole sequence, 21-minute sequences of action, it was really mind-blowing to watch. The action sequences here are happening based on the camera, and they are practically done. So there are a minimal use of CGI in this film. There are some scenes that require CGI, but the CGI here did not overtake the experience. You can still enjoy these action sequences throughout this film while making the CGI unnoticeable. And that is a perfect point. I really like the action sequences, how they take the action sequences and making it like a one take. And it is super hard to do. So the action sequences in this film works. And now let's talk about the performances a little bit. Chris Hemsworth as Tyler Rake. He is amazing as Tyler Rake. One aspect that I really do like about him is that he doesn't immediately jump into the action sequences. No. The movies start slow, a little bit slow, to show what happens after the events of the first Extraction film. And that is a clever way to see him recover from that event. And if you have seen the first film, you know that he fell down to a river, so that really adds a feeling of realism to the character. He's not a superhero, he's just a soldier. And yes, and most of the performances here are amazing. They are really serving what they need to serve in this action film, and they do it perfectly well. Particularly the villain here, he is kind of a militia in this Georgian prison, and that also has some relation to the people that Tyler Rake is trying to, rescue. So there is a little bit bond between the villain and the people that Tyler Rake is going to rescue here, because they are technically family. And one of the members of the family, he has kind of conflicting point of how he views any situation. And I really like that. At some point he understands, but the steps leading up to that point, he really doesn't understand fully what's going on. He still views this villain as a part of the family. So there is a heart-to-heart conversation between Tyler Rake and this kid to try to convince him that he is not on the right side. And I really like that. I really like that emotional touch that they are trying to take here. Even though that is brief, the selling point is still the action. I really do like the little bits of emotional aspect that they're throwing here, and it sometimes works and sometimes it doesn't work, because there are also some scenes that did not need to be in this film. I don't want to mention what scenes that doesn't really connect to the plot very well, but there are some of them. But thankfully, it didn't really ruin the movie for me. And there are also some characters, just the purpose of the characters are just to set up more extraction films without any other purpose, you know. And yes, the action works, the performances works, particularly Tyler Rake and the villain here. He is menacing, and you know that this man is evil. And yet, to be frank, the first extraction film was very good, but I really did not think that this movie should exist, you know. The script was clearly made for one film. In that film, there was no setup to this film, so they have to make things up, and it really doesn't work. The script really is just for one film. There's no setup here and there, but by the end of this film, they are setting Extraction 3. And my hopes for that film is, of course, elevate the action sequences because I like them, but also strengthen the plot a little bit, because the plot here, even though the character building on the story works, but I still do think that this plot is really weak, because at some point you realize that Tyler Rake and his family has to go to point A, point B, and point C, and that keeps going on and going on. There's no pattern in the story, and it really just monotone. And for the third film, I want that pattern to change a little bit, to enrich the formula. And yes, I think this film story is quite formulaic, but if you're in here just for the action, you're going to have a blast, because this movie knows what it's doing. It knows how to take the action properly, super realistically, and I really like this film because I really like action film, and particularly I really like the first one. And that comes to a final question. Is this film better than the first Extraction? Well, technically yes. The action sequences are better here, but the plot is still better on the first Extraction film, because the script is so tight and fast paced, and you really don't have time to catch your breath. It's just a little bit of plots and a lot of action sequences, and that's it. And the sequel, to follow that formula, it really doesn't flow very well. It really needs for a pattern change for the third one, if they decided to make the third one. And so, for Extraction 2, I'm going to give a 7.5 out of 10. I know, this is a super enjoyable film. Particularly if you like the first Extraction film, you should really watch this, because this is a complete thrill ride. And that's it. 7.5 out of 10, and see you on the next video.